everyone, and welcome to More Than a Game. I'm Kevaney Martin. He's Jermaine Ferrell. Over the next hour, we will take a look at the historic career of Virginia Tech head football coach Frank Beamer.
Well, Kevaney, you know what? We have so much on the man many people simply call Frank. Now, Saturday afternoon at 5:45, Frank Beamer will coach his final game for Tech as the Hokies play the Tulsa Golden Hurricane in the Independence Bowl.
Exactly, Jermaine. And WFXR Sports Director Jeff Archer is in Shreveport, Louisiana, covering the Hokies as they're getting ready for the bowl game. Jeff, what's going on in Shreveport?
Hey guys, it's nice and warm here in Shreveport as the Hokies prepare for one final bowl game under the leadership of Frank Beamer. And of course, the legendary head Hokie is the subject of our hour-long special tonight. And what an hour it is. It is packed head to toe with a lot of great stuff, including taking a trip down memory lane to Fancy Gap. We sit down with his neighbor and longtime friend, Mike Burnup. We'll hear from Frank Beamer himself as we go one-on-one, and you might learn a thing or two about him you didn't actually know before then. And we'll talk also with Athletic Director Whit Babcock, not only about Frank Beamer, but what about the future of Hokies football? That's up for discussion as well. And also, along with that, we talk with a couple other guys about Frank and what he's meant as we examine Coach Beamer's role in helping the university heal after the shootings on April 15th in 2007. We have all this and more for you as we take a look at the life of Frank Beamer. I'll have more for you myself from Shreveport. For now, though, we'll go ahead and toss it back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Jeff. And here's a look at Frank Beamer by the numbers. With 276 wins, Coach Beamer is currently the winningest active coach in Division I FBS. He's won 7 conference titles, 4 in the ACC and 3 in the Big East. In 1999, he was named the National Coach of the Year after leading Virginia Tech to their only undefeated regular season and a trip to the Sugar Bowl to play for the national championship. Saturday's Independence Bowl will be his unprecedented 23rd straight bowl appearance, the longest active streak in the country. Coach Beamer was born on October 18, 1946 in Mount Airy, North Carolina. But growing up, he made his home in Fancy Gap, Virginia. Jermaine, you made the trip down to Fancy Gap, where not surprisingly, there is still a lot of love and respect for Coach Beamer and his family.
Kevin, here's a big thing. It's a neat trip down Fancy Gap. You go down 81, you go down 77 as you're going towards Charlotte. And there was so much about his old stomping grounds down in Fancy Gap. Now, decades later, there's still so much pride for their native son. Fancy Gap, Virginia, a small town in Carroll County. According to the 2010 census, 237 people call Fancy Gap home. It was also home to Frank Beamer's early days on Earth.
Well, Fancy Gap has always been a nice place, good people, and everybody's always got along, and it's just a great place to live.
Faye Mills owns a country store in the town. The family was next door neighbors to the Beamers.
No, they played football and, played ball all the time, but it wasn't nothing to think about. He would turn out to be what he is today.
Larry Collins grew up with Frank. They have known each other since they were 6 years old.
Just good friends, and kind of kept up with him over the years and interested in what he's doing. And everybody in Fancy Gap and Carroll County and everywhere is very proud of him. He's been very successful in what he's done, but we could see some traits in that back when Frank was growing up. He was a competitor.
Coach Beamer played football for the old Hillsville High School in the mid-1960s, where he earned 11 varsity letters: football, basketball, and baseball. Speaking of baseball, Collins has an interesting story involving him, Frank, and a baseball bat.
And we were out in the front of his home here, and I was down trying to catch, and I don't know, there's 4 or 5 of us playing there, and Frank was at the bat, and so I wasn't a very good catcher, and I was always bat blind anyway, I guess, but I reached up to get the ball before it got there, and Frank came back and popped me right here on the head with the bat, and a big old knot popped up on my head, but that was nothing big, and I don't even remember saying anything about it. Maybe when we went in a little bit later, somebody said, my mom or his mom, somebody said, well, Larry, what's that knot doing on your head or whatever. But we just didn't think anything about that. But I guess he probably convinced me at a young age of 8, 9 years old that I could not be a catcher in a baseball game.
Friends of Coach Beamer say he hasn't forgotten his Fancy Gap roots. He's always giving back to the community and showing up for class reunions.
Just just a good old hometown boy, you know. I'm not trying to say old country punkin, but he's still a good old country boy, you know, from Fancy Gap, Virginia, who's been on the big stage, but yet he knew where he came from, and he's never forgotten that.
Everybody just knows him as Frank. You know, just grew up with him, and that's all I can say. He was just neighbors to everybody, just good neighbors.
He's just a good guy, and so he deserves everything he's getting now. So we just, everybody in Carroll County is proud of him and wish him the best, you know, with his retirement.
Now, as we move past his Fancy Gap days, Coach Beamer ended up playing quarterback for Jerry Claiborne at Virginia Tech from 1966 through 1968. Nearly 20 years later, he was called back home to Tech to coach the Hokies. And one of his closest friends has seen every play from Coach Beamer as a player and a coach, and that's Virginia Tech radio color analyst Mike Burniff. Both played for Coach Claiborne. Now they are neighbors, and I recently sat down with Mike as he shared some of the great stories about Coach Beamer.
Golly, you think about Coach Beamer and everything he's done for Virginia Tech, and you go back to the Bill Dooley days, and Virginia Tech was maybe at one of its highest points after they had won the Peach Bowl, and Coach Beamer comes in and they proceed to win 2 games the next year, 1987. So a lot of people questioned the hire. The first 6 years were really, really rough for Coach Beamer, only 2 winning seasons, and those were with 6 wins. And that last year, the 6th year, they were 2-8-1, and a lot of people felt like a change needed to be made, but Dave Brain stuck with Coach Beamer. The administration was behind him. They liked what he was doing, and then the next year it kind of changed up and switched around. That's when they went to the Independence Bowl in 1993.
4 games that stand out for you during his run.
And then to go beat Texas in the Sugar Bowl, I think that was a game that kind of put Virginia Tech on the map as well, because of Texas was, I think, ranked number 9, beat them 28-10 after being behind 10-0. I think that put them on the map. So I think the Texas game was certainly huge. The national championship game, you'll never forget, even though the Hokies lost that game to Florida State, had to lead going to the 4th quarter and ended up giving up 18 points to Florida State in the 4th quarter. Heartbreaker. You never thought that, gosh, we may never get back here again. And you had a great chance the next year. When Michael Vick was going to be a sophomore, they only lost 1 game that year. That was at Miami when he was hurt and didn't play. And so you wonder, what if? Could we have gotten back to the national championship?
In the 29 years that you've covered Coach Beamer calling all the games on the radio, what do you think is the biggest change from him from the start of the 29 years till now?
You know what? The guy hasn't changed much. It's really amazing when you think about it. I mean, he's about as level a person as you'll ever see. He never got too high with the wins, and he never got too low with the losses.
Just the closeness between you and Coach Beamer and your families. Just talk about that special bond between you, your family, and Coach Beamer's family.
Well, Coach Beamer's just been a remarkable friend. Living across the street, I remember when he came up and looked at the lot next to me. It was kind of funny because the road kind of stopped at my neighbor's house, and then there was just a gravel road going up to my house. And then Coach Beamer buys the lot across the street, and then all of a sudden it was like the road got widened, we got asphalt, pavement. It was like, Coach, thank you. Things happen when you got a name like Beamer. That was pretty fun, but he's been a great neighbor through the years. Just watching him and Cheryl out there. Cheryl was used to mow her own grass. I mean, she loved getting out in the yard and working. And she was dear friends with my wife, Ellen. And I'll never forget when Ellen passed away. It's like 3.5 years ago. And Coach Beamer, Jim Weaver, they were all at the ACC meetings and left those meetings early to come back for the funeral. I'll never forget that, what he did for that. Just very touching. Just a tremendous man. It's been awesome to have him as a neighbor, and I look forward to having him as a neighbor for many, many years.
Well, Kevaney, I tell you one thing, Mike Burniff, what a great guy, knowing so much about Coach Beamer. I tell you, he could tell so many stories about some neat stories about Coach Beamer.
And I know Mike could go on for hours about his endless stories.
Yes,
Coach.
sir. Hours and hours.
And coming up on More Than a Game, I will have my one-on-one interview with the legendary head Hokie himself, Frank Beamer. What's some stuff that maybe most people don't know about Frank Beamer?
Well, what they don't know, maybe I don't want them to know.
Plus, later in the show, Jeff Archer sits down with Whit Babcock as he talks about the future of the Virginia Tech football program.
But first, throughout the show, we have several trivia questions to test your knowledge on the Virginia Tech football program. Frank Beamer has coached the Hokies to 10 bowl wins. He has beaten one team twice. Which team is it? Cincinnati, Tennessee, Rutgers, or Purdue? The answer coming up right after the break. Welcome back to More Than a Game. Here is our first trivia question again. Frank Beamer has coached the Hokies to 10 bowl wins, and he has beaten one team twice. Which team is it? A, Cincinnati, B, Tennessee, C, Rutgers, or D, Purdue? If you picked Cincinnati, then you are correct. I had the special honor of sitting down with Coach Beamer. I've been to countless of his weekly press conferences and post-game interviews, but having a chance to go one-on-one with a legend is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. 29 years. Your kids went here, you went here. What does Virginia Tech mean to you?
Well, not only did my kids and I went here, my brother's kids went here, my sister's kids went here. Virginia Tech has just always been a very special place. And, I feel very fortunate to number one, stay at the same place for 29 years. That doesn't happen in this business very often. And then to stay at a place that's so close to you and means so much to you, and being with people that you like and so forth, just feel very fortunate.
Let's jump back, 1986 when you were hired. The first 6 years were, tough, rebuilding, and then 1993 was when you guys got your first bowl bid. Break down the process of those first 6 years, how it finally came, all the way to 1993 when you got that bid and what that feeling was like.
Yeah, well, I came here, we were on scholarship sanctions. And so we lost about 10 scholarships for 2 straight years and a few more after that. And when you lose scholarships, it doesn't hurt you now. It hurts you in about 3 or 4 years when those guys should be juniors or seniors. And fortunately, I had an administration that understood that. And so when I come here in like my 6th year, I'm 2-8-1 or something, I think, thank goodness they understood that, this is, what happens when you lose scholarships. And then I think, thank goodness they could see that we were doing it the right way and treating the kids right and getting them academically, doing what was in their best interest and so forth. And so they gave me an opportunity, thanks to Dave Brain and the administration here at Virginia Tech, gave me an opportunity to hang in there, and we got it turned around in '93 and then got on a good streak after that.
As you said, you turned it around there in '93. Now 23 consecutive bowl bids later. When you look back, what sticks out to you?
Well, it's number one, never been to a bad bowl. Some people say, okay, this bowl's better than that bowl. I don't see that. Every bowl has been great. The Independence Bowl, where we started out, and then having gone back to visit with them and see it. The thing that hits you is the people are so genuine. They're glad you're there. They want to be helpful, and that's, it's just a trademark of that bowl is how great the people are there. And it's just been fortunate to got on the bowl deal and liked it and been able to stay with it.
And you brought it up there, the Independence Bowl, where it all started. And now it's kind of come full circle, and you guys are back in the Independence Bowl, your final season here. How special is that to go back and kind of end it there?
Yeah, it's kind of neat. Some things I think are just meant to happen. And, this one came around, and of course, a few weeks ago, we were fighting just to get in a bowl near the end of the season, and then we made that. Of The kids played some tough football when things weren't looking great. Proud of this football team, but we won some tough games there at the end, and then one got eligible, and then able to go back to the Independence Bowl. So, it's like I said, come a full circle, but it's been a good circle. What we've been able to do here, and the people we met, and the kids we've had, and the administration that I've had, 29 years and 21 years since we went to the Independence Bowl, I guess it is. It's been good.
And you talk about the kids you've had a number of players, make the next jump to the NFL. Was there any player in particular that's been most surprising, that's had so much success at the next level?
Not really. Michael Vick, you knew his talent, and he demonstrated that often, but he was really one of a kind. And Corey Moore, was one of a kind, because what he can do for his size, he wasn't a real tall guy, but boy, he was powerful and quick and coming off that edge, rushing the quarterback. I mean, he was a difference maker. And then we've had a lot. Cornell Brown from Lynchburg, first really big time recruit we got here, and you could kind of go on, and if you did, you'd still leave some people out. But we've had a lot of great ones through here. Tyrod Taylor, that's playing NFL now, had a tremendous career here, and proud of all of them, though. I mentioned those guys, but just proud of the product that we put out after they'd been here for 4 years, 5 years, got their degree, and how they're living their life for the most part. That's very rewarding to see that.
I need a sign down here that says greatest fans ever.
And we spoke about the former players. So many of them reached out to you when you announced your retirement. The outpouring of support and love, not only from the former players, the community. What were those weeks following the announcement like for you?
Well, more than I ever imagined. I didn't even know I knew that many people, but it's been fantastic. The number, my office is full in there of people that's written and things that's been given to me, and I'm just amazed, very, very appreciative. But that's the way Tech is. They do things differently. It's a different school, and they've just gone out of their way to show their appreciation, and I'm very grateful.
So, what are your retirement plans?
Maybe talk to some people, maybe getting into some TV work, so maybe working on the other side over here. But no, that interests me some, and I'd like some new challenges and new experiences, and so I look forward to that.
And a lot of people feel like they know you. What's some stuff that maybe most people don't know about Frank Beamer?
What they don't know, maybe I don't want them to know. Yeah. No, they probably wouldn't know that I took piano lessons. And the reason I took piano lessons is because if I practiced piano, I didn't have to go out and milk cows in the morning. But I finally realized these little short, stubby fingers weren't meant for pianos. So, but I took, then I played in the band, played trombone in the band, and then I stopped that when I got to high school, and the two just, you couldn't do both. I'd love to be able to sing. I don't know how many times I've told my wife I'll be sitting there watching TV and hear someone sing, and the voice has just been on here, and I said, man, if I could just sing like that's such a gift, and so I'd love to be able to do that. But that's about it.
What do you want Frank Beamer to be remembered for?
That we were successful, that we did it the right way, that he cared about people and treated people with respect, cared about his players. That's always been important to me, that you know, when mom and dad turns them over to us, that we treat them like they should be, and try to give them back a better person than when they came here, and learn some values that maybe they didn't have before. So that's, you know, when it's all said and done, people are the deal. I mean, I don't care if your football team or your club or your whatever. It always gets back to people. And when you're around good people and you're around people that you enjoy being around, that's really a gift. You've been blessed, and I feel like I've been blessed.
Coming up on More Than a Game, Jeff Archer sits down with Virginia Tech Athletic Director Whit Babcock as he talks about the future of the Virginia Tech football program.
And later, Coach Beamer talks about one of the darkest days in Virginia Tech history and how he helped the university get through that tough time.
But here's our second trivia question. Frank Beamer has led the Hokies to 23 straight bowl appearances. Now, which bowl has the team gone to the most? Is it the Independence Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl, or Gator Bowl? The answer coming up on the other side. Welcome back to More Than a Game. Now, before the break, we asked a trivia question. Frank Beamer has led the Hokies to 23 consecutive bowl appearances. But which bowl has the team gone to the most? Is it the Independence Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl, or Gator Bowl? If you answered D, the Gator Bowl, you are a winner. Now, Saturday will be the final time Frank Beamer will be the head coach for the Virginia Tech Hokies as they take on Tulsa in the Independence Bowl. His impact on the program will be felt long after he leaves the sidelines for the Hokies, and Jeff Archer has more with that.
Yeah, no doubt about that. It certainly is. He loves this program more than almost anything in the world, and it means a lot to him. The continued success is something that he certainly wants to see, and it's something that I talked to Whit Babcock about when the athletic director and I sat down to talk about the future of this program. We talk about Coach Beamer. When you inherited the program or came here 2 years ago, you came with a coach like Coach Beamer. What's he been like to work with so far?
He's been outstanding, and I heard all these stories of Coach Beamer and how great he was, and I thought, you know, nobody can live up to those expectations, but he did, and he exceeded those. And to take me as a newcomer, and he helped me a lot. He showed me respect. He was just too good to be true, and he helped make me a better athletic director, and I'm grateful for the time working with him.
What is it about him that makes him unique? You've worked with so many coaches through the years and through your career. What is it about him that makes him different than the other coaches you've dealt with?
Oh, that's a good question. His humility, probably. He's obviously a heck of a coach, but he's genuine. He's just the whole package, but he's the real deal. What you see is what you get. He's a winner. He's an educator. He does it by the rules. And you know, there's not too many people that'll have 29-year careers, but he's an easy guy to root for.
One thing you said, he does it by the rules. I don't think I've seen a program really as clean as Virginia Tech before at this level. What does it say about him, and what does it do for you as an athletic director? You don't have to worry about that he is a guy that plays by the rules.
It's part of our culture now that we do it right here, and a lot of that, there's a lot of people responsible, but leadership comes from the top, and Coach Beamer deserves a lot of credit for that. It also, when we were visiting with new coaches about coming in, we said, hey, you got to follow a legend, but here's what he exemplified, and here's our culture, and Coach Beamer is really intertwined with the fabric of our brand. So he set the bar high, and now it's a great one for us to stay at and keep working at that level.
How much is he a figurehead for the university? I imagine when you think of Virginia Tech, you think of Frank Beamer first and foremost.
Yes, he is, but again, not in an egotistical way, but when called on, he's represented Virginia Tech really well, certainly at some tough times in our past outside of athletics. He stepped up, but yeah, in a lot of ways, he's the face of Virginia Tech, but he knows Virginia Tech is bigger than all of us, but he loves it here. He cares the most about this place, and again, there's just not anything negative you can say about Coach Beamer.
How difficult is that for Coach Fuente to take over a program like this that is so ingrained with Frank Beamer?
Yeah, it probably won't be the easiest thing in the world, but we were looking for somebody that had similar core values to Coach Beamer. We were looking for somebody that certainly was humble and genuine and all those things, but we were also looking for somebody that was comfortable in their own skin, right? We want them to be their own person, to realize they can't replace Coach Beamer, but also not to be intimidated by that stage. And I know it's early, but if the press conference was any indication or other things, I don't believe this is too big of a stage for Justin Fuente. But he's also very respectful of Coach Beamer and a student of college football. He had done his homework, and I think for him, the chance to come in and follow a legend wasn't intimidating, it was exciting. I'm sure it's intimidating in a little ways, but he knows how good this place is, so it was the job that he wanted, and we wanted him.
You've been around a lot of successful head football coaches in your time in the athletic departments you've worked for. What is it about Coach Fuente that reminds you of some of the other successful coaches that you've dealt with?
You know, that energy and drive and passion, attention to detail, organization, recruiting, the energy to do that. I don't believe there's one size that fits all on coaches, but we were looking to hire a proven winner, somebody that does it the right way, somebody that had exemplified leadership, and he met those traits. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of ways to do it. I believe he will be student-athlete centered, and we certainly are all about that because they come here first and foremost to get a degree from this place. So there's a lot of things that appealed to me about Justin. There's a lot of ways to coach. Again, time will tell, but in my eyes, he was the perfect fit.
One thing that I heard as the process was going along over and over again is that you were looking for a coach who was good on the offensive side of the ball to bring some more energy back. How important was that to find a guy who was known for his offense?
Yeah, that was a big part of it. It was, and you know, we had such a good defense, and Coach Foster's so great on that side. We just felt like going in a little bit more of an offensive direction would be good, and then if we could keep Coach Foster around, that would be great too, and I'm glad it worked out. I don't have the information or the stats to back this up today, but I did note, statistically speaking, that sitting head coaches and offensive coordinators tend to do better as head coaches in college football than defensive coordinators. Now that's a broad statement. I'm sure you can pick out holes of, you know, Nick Saban wasn't too bad on that side of the ball, but it just seems like offense is the way it's going. We've always seemed to have the defense, and our offense made great strides this year, but if we can get that side of the ball going, we'll be tough to beat.
I know it's hard to tell right now, but there's a lot of traditions that were started by Frank Beamer, things, you know, some of those things like entertainment and things like that. Do you know which traditions Coach Fuente may keep around and which ones may go and which ones he may bring in new ones in?
Yeah, I don't believe there'll be too much change there. He certainly respects the tradition, and we talked about that too, that hey, we want to come in and respect tradition, but pick our opportunities for strategic change. And I think he'd get me and him run out of town if we changed Enter Sandman. Actually, he said that with our recruits, that's the thing they bring up, that entrance and the fans here and all that, so we'd be crazy to change that. Certainly he'll do some things different than Coach Beamer, but the core traditions and what makes college football special, I believe he'll keep those. So yeah, I haven't heard anything alarming yet.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that many of those traditions will live on after Frank Beamer leaves. I am very curious to see what new traditions Justin Fuente may bring in. Now, one other thing Whit Babcock did reinforce once again is how much of a great fit he thinks Justin Fuente is indeed for this program. That, of course, remains to be seen over time, but right now, people thinking some good things about the new head coach, Justin Fuente. We'll go ahead and toss it back to you guys in the studio.
People needed to see someone they knew and tell them that things are going to be okay, that we're going to get through this.
Coming up on More Than a Game, Frank Beamer talks about April 16th, 2007 and his role in helping Virginia Tech get through a tough time in the school's history.
And later we share some of our thoughts about Saturday's Independence Bowl game between the Hokies and the Golden Hurricanes.
But first, here is our third trivia question. The Hokies have won 10 bowl games under Coach Beamer's leadership. Which team did they beat by the largest amount? Tennessee, Indiana, Alabama, or Clemson? The answer coming up after this timeout. Welcome back to More Than a Game. Before the break, we asked you a trivia question. The Hokies have won 10 bowl games under Coach Beamer's leadership. Which team did they beat by the largest amount? Tennessee, Indiana, Alabama, or Clemson? If you picked Alabama, then you are correct.
Now, Frank Beamer was more than just a football coach at Virginia Tech. Kevaney, Beamer was actually a beacon of light during some of the university's darkest times.
Yes, Jermaine, he was on the campus during 3 shooting incidents, including the massacre on April 16th, 2007. Coach Beamer was one of the most powerful voices in Blacksburg after this devastating shooting.
Now, Travell Allen joins us as he shares more about how Coach Beamer was that symbol of hope for Hokie Nation after that shooting.
Yeah, Kevaney and Jermaine, 8 years after that shooting, Frank Beamer's impact on the community and the campus is still being felt today. He says that he never really thought about how important his actions were to the community during that difficult time. After decades of victories and celebrations at Virginia Tech, Frank Beamer's darkest moment as Hokies head football coach was undoubtedly April 16, 2007. A disgruntled student stormed onto campus,
and I saw students running out of Norris Hall,
taking the lives of 32 people on campus. The gunman injured more than a dozen others before turning the gun on himself. It was the deadliest shooting rampage in U.S. history. After being on lockdown inside of his office for several hours, Beamer says he rushed home to watch the news coverage with his wife Cheryl. The devastation and the reality of what happened began to set in. Virginia Tech's current athletic director, Whit Babcock, wasn't working at the university at the time of the shooting, but he says the tragedy transformed Frank Beamer from more than just a head football coach.
Being from Virginia, I certainly watched it from afar and on television. You know, I don't know that he planned it. He just got out on campus and he saw a lot of people hurting, and I don't know what it was like that day, but it seemed like people needed something to hold on to and a steadying influence, and that's when he transcended just athletics.
In many ways, after that mass shooting, Beamer became the school's counselor-in-chief.
I never really thought a lot about it at the time as far as what my role was.
In his book, Let Me Be Frank, he wrote, "It's unbelievable. I always thought if there was ever a campus where something like this could never happen, Virginia Tech was it. Once Cheryl and I started crying, it was hard to stop. Just thinking of those innocent, defenseless kids tore me up inside." After the shooting, Beamer visited the victims in the hospital. He didn't want the school to be remembered for the lives lost on that day. He says he wanted the school to be defined by its spirit to survive, a spirit that was on the verge of being broken.
As I went around campus, I've told this story, but one little girl one day, one student, was over sitting by herself, and I went over and asked, could I help her? And it's one of those where I thought it was better. She just, people needed to see someone they knew and tell them that things are going to be okay, that we're going to get through this.
After the shooting, football was more than just a game for the Hokie Nation. Football was a rally of support, a unifying event that helped people in the healing process.
I said it's a devastating happening, and one sick guy, it's not going to define who we are, that we'll be closer, we'll respect each other more. And I think that's what's happened. I really do. I think this school right now is, you see it on game day. I mean, everyone's doing their part to try to help us win. Everybody's jumping in there, the students, the fans, the band, cheerleaders, the whole deal. As you go around and visit, I just think there's a real caring for other Hokies, a real respect for other people, and I think the school learned from that and became better from that. They took that experience, a terrible experience, and made Virginia Tech better.
Even without Beamer, the Hokies must rush on, but without Beamer's light, things just won't be the same.
But he's one of a kind, and I think Coach Fuente will certainly be great, but there's not going to be another Frank Beamer, I don't believe.
Frank Beamer says after the shooting, he decided to go to the hospital and visit many of the victims injured during that shooting. He says he went there thinking he would help cheer them up, but in fact their high spirits actually made him feel better. The Hokie Nation is grateful for Coach Beamer and all he did during that time. They say they will never forget his role in helping the school heal after that tragedy.
Thanks, Travell. Coming up, Kevaney, Jeff, and I will give our feelings about Coach Beamer and the key to Saturday's game.
And here's our final trivia question. The Hokies have been in the ACC for 12 years. How many times did they finish first in their division? 5, 6, 7, or 8? The answer is coming up. Stay tuned. We are back with more than a game. Our trivia question is, the Hokies have been in the ACC for 12 years. How many times did they finish first in their division? 5, 6, 7, or 8? You answered 6 times, then you are correct.
But Kevaney, the Independence Bowl kicks off Saturday at 5:45 from Independence Stadium in Shreveport, Louisiana. Virginia Tech and Tulsa both enter the game at 6 and 6.
We all have opinions on the game. First up, Jeff Archer again in Shreveport covering the game. He gives us his take on the game and Coach Beamer.
Yeah, guys, it's hard to say anything new about Frank Beamer that hasn't already been said, but the one word that obviously comes up over and over again is genuine. What you see is what you get with Frank Beamer. He is indeed the real deal. Now, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the actual bowl game itself taking place Saturday evening, the Independence Bowl against Tulsa. One thing to keep in mind in this game, the Hokies nearly a 2-touchdown favorite. The big battle, though, and test will be if Bud Foster's defense can make stops against that Tulsa offense. If you give Bud Foster that much time, though, to come up with a game plan, I like his odds, even with that young secondary. I think the Hokies look pretty good going into this one. I like what I see out of them. Of course, we'll see that coming up against Tulsa in the Independence Bowl. For now, we'll go ahead and toss it back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, Jeff. And as we've seen building up to this game the weeks, prior, so much attention is focused on Frank Beamer and him closing out his storied career on a high note. But in typical Frank Beamer fashion, he's deflected all of that attention onto the university and the community and the players.
And that's the thing, Kevin. When I went down to Fancy Gap, everybody loved him. Everybody knows him as just Frank. And then you go out into the community and everything. People want to take pictures with him. People just want to tell him how much they appreciate him. And what better way? I mean, this whole thing's gone full circle. Started the streak in the Independence Bowl. He's going to end it there on Saturday. So it'll be just a fun event. And hopefully, Virginia Tech will be homers. We're going for a Tech win to beat the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. So it'll diminish him down to like maybe a spring shower.
Exactly. Go Hokies, right?
Go Hokies. That's right. That's what we're here for.
Well, that does it here for us for More Than a Game. Our tribute to Coach Frank Beamer. For Jeff Archer in Shreveport, Jermaine Ferrell, I'm Kevaney Martin. Enjoy the Independence Bowl, everyone, and go Hokies.
He's been a true ambassador, and he has proved his worth. I'm a UVA fan, so I'm kind of glad he's gone.
Sad to see him go. I was at Tech when he was a player up there, so I've watched him play as a player. I've seen the state of Tech football before he got there, so I think he brought national prominence to the program that nobody else did.
He gave the program a name, so he took it from in the 80s, nothing too special, to a nationally recognized football team. So.
To me, I think the way that he coached the team and the way he had so many wins and we went to so many ball games, I think is amazing.
Well, I think it's very big shoes to fill. He's left quite a legacy. He's built the program up. I'm sad to see him go, but I'm happy for him to be able to have time to be with his family, grandchildren. Hopefully the next one can do as well as he did.
And just think about Beamer ball. I mean, that was a phenomenon he created. Back in the day when Jerry Claiborne was his coach, he believed in defense and he believed in special teams, and Frank kind of took that to another level. And that's kind of like a label for the program.